So Disney was one of the first companies I invested in when I started a portfolio. And since then, Disney has done nothing but disappoint me. I understand that there are those that have been invested in Disney since its inception or since their inception. And you guys are winners when it comes to price growth and returns. But for those of us that have invested in Disney over the last 5 years, it feels like we've been given the middle finger, quite frankly. The stock price hasn't gone anywhere but down. They cut their dividends. The company's revenue streams are strong. So what's going on? And despite their best efforts to turn things around by firing one Bob and bringing in the old Bob, the former CEO that made them a ton of money, streamlined their business, nothing has changed. To make things worse, attendance at their prime parks and at their theme parks have also seen a heavy decline. And they've been forced to close several stores and businesses that haven't been reopened since the pandemic. Disney is supposed to be a brand that's too big to fail. They have their hands in so many areas, it's hard to think that they would be facing this kind of a fall off. With all of the multi-million-dollar trademarks and platforms under their banner, you would think that if anyone would be thriving right now, it would be them. But for the longest time, Disney has been able to prop up their various failures with the success and revenue from their theme parks. But like a disease, they've allowed their business to be infected by extreme leftists with grandiose ideals of inclusion and diversity. And what's followed has been a very cringeworthy subplot that has left their investors asking, what the fuck are you all doing? We just heard about the mass layoff at ESPN, where they cut very well-known and recognized faces from their various sports platforms. Hulu engagement and subscriber growth is struggling. And now we can clearly see that their diversity inclusion bullshit hasn't worked out for them very well. And that tends to happen when you basically tell your core audience to fuck off.
Joining me now is the journalist who obtained all of those Disney videos, Chris Rufo, Manhattan Institute Senior Fellow. Also joining me is Amla Ekpunobi, PragerU personality, former left-wing activist. All right, Chris, you are, speaking of thorns in the side of these woke corporations, Disney went on to write that the only option for corporate leaders is to stand tall for authenticity, generosity, joy, and decency. These things are kryptonite for the right-wing agenda. Fortunately, they are also the heart and soul of the Disney brand. Well, everyone counts except, all of these kind of moderate Americans who just want to go and have fun and not be proselytized to or not have their kids turned into, sexual, points of perversion for teachers. Your reaction to this?
Yeah, I mean, it really is the case that Disney claims to be standing tall, but you saw the video. CEO Bob Chapek, someone who earns $32.5 million a year as his base salary, is just absolutely degrading himself every day, day in and day out. And the reality is that the conservatives in this country have dealt a major blow to Walt Disney. In Florida, legislators are looking at taking away their special tax breaks. In Congress and D.C., conservatives had said, we're not going to extend the Disney copyrights for Mickey Mouse and other characters that are set to expire next year. That's a multi-billion-dollar hit against the company. And conservative parents and families all over this country are in revolt against the mouse because they don't want their kids to be an experimental ground for the kind of sexual engineering of children that is clearly Disney's gambit. We've seen it in the clips. We've seen the kind of bizarre personalities that are at the helm, whether it's a biromantic asexual, a bunch of they, thems, whatever the neo-sexual identities might be, those are the people who are calling the shots. They're projecting their own kind of bizarre psychologies onto the CEO who just backs down every day.
Now, Amala, as I said, they're targeting your generation. You're Gen Z, right?
Right, I am, yes.
I hate all the names. I hate the names of the generation. They're all stupid, but it's so dumb. But they admit that's the group they're after. My point is, most of the Gen Zers aren't going to pay $300 for whatever it costs for a park hopper pass. They're going to pay that. Their parents or their grandparents pay it, and they're not going to want to foot these bills. Your reaction to all of this?
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think what their motive here is to get children while they're young and infiltrate their minds with this sort of ideology, because they know that if they get these children at a young age, it will stick, as it did with me when I was a young leftist. That stuck with me into young adulthood. So that is really the goal here. I think what they failed to recognize is the power of parents, and that parents are really awake to the indoctrination that they're trying to push on their children. We're seeing them protest at Disney. We're seeing them cancel their Disney Plus subscriptions, and they're sending letters to these executives saying, I will not tolerate you, thinking that you are the parent of my child and that you get to dictate what my child learns. And we're seeing the horrific outcomes of children learning this sort of gender theory, not just here on Disney, but in school and in mainstream media and social media. It's devastating.
Well, Pete, I'm going to get to one more of the videos, but before we do that, Pete Buttigieg revealed his thoughts, guys, on the Florida bill, and he did this morning. Watch.
Your husband, Chasten, he's been a vocal critic of what's going on in my state of Florida with the so-called Don't Say Gay law now, which he says will kill kids. Do you agree?
Yeah, he's right. And I think every law ought to be judged for the effect it's going to have on real people. This is going to hurt people.
Well, Chris, it's the opposite. This bill protects children's innocence if it still matters to any of these people.
Yeah, I mean, the logic here is so stunning, it's almost to the point of total absurdity. The idea that if you can't teach kindergartners, 5-year-olds, about that they might be pansexual or asexual or biromantic or all of these other new identities, that somehow it's going to be leading to killing them. One of the Disney activist partners actually said that this was all a scheme by Republicans to start kidnapping children. The rhetoric is going to the point of insanity. Conservatives have to just sit strong, not give up, and keep fighting against these baseless and ridiculous smears.
Now, Chris, you've done such a service to parents across this country to reveal what's really going on at Disney. And Amala, just for the edification of our viewers, here's what one Disney producer wants to include in the shows she's involved with. Watch.
I identify as like a biromantic asexual. I want to use my content to like go deeper. I want to like add the pockets of the LGBTQ community that you don't see. I was like, I want to get like gay advanced.
I think she said like 3 or 4 times in the span of about 20 seconds. How about it? We stop saying like. Amala, reaction quickly.
Right. Yeah, clearly she should be at the head of teaching children. It's amazing how many identities they come up with, and there will be more. And it shows you how important things like sex and race and gender are to these people, when we should be focusing on moral character, integrity, and values. That's what Disney used to do with their stronghold on the American childhood. They need to go back to that.
Now, some might say it's what they deserve. And despite what it sounds like, I have a vested interest in Disney and seeing Disney return to form. And as I said in the beginning, I've been invested in Disney for years, since the beginning, since I started. But this is one of those rare situations where buying the dip hasn't necessarily been a smart strategy. So the question on investors' minds, is Disney still a legacy stock to own? And more importantly, to add to your portfolio. I always say on this channel that it's important to evaluate the company from every aspect and perspective, not just the balance sheet. Of course, you want to follow the money, right? But you also want to factor in all the news surrounding a company, especially if it's bad news. Just look at 3M and Alibaba. 2 great examples. Those are 2 companies that should absolutely be killing it in the market, yet their outside extenuating circumstances have affected their stock evaluation, because the investors are the ones that prop up their stock price. And if the investors believe there's blood in the water, then guess what happens to that price? There is no tool in this world that can measure the investor's temperament. I don't care what these people are telling you here on YouTube. So here we are today, and Disney has been on the chopping block for the last 5 years. And the question that every investor is pondering right now is, will it rebound? Can this stock price return to greatness? Can we reasonably expect Disney to not only bounce back, but climb higher than its previous highs? Well, in theory, when you invest into a stock, you're purchasing a piece of the business, right? But we have to keep in mind that you're buying into every part of the business. Every part of the business side of things. And that's the good and bad. So when Disney is closing down parks, cutting employees, and losing money on their multi-million-dollar movie productions, freezing their share buyback program, you as the investor take those L's as well. Do not misunderstand. Disney is still making money. They're still profitable. Their revenue is still off the charts. But then why is their stock price seeing all-time lows compared to their highs of $203 a share? Something's off. So look, Disney is one of the greatest companies of the last century. There's no denying that. Do I believe that this share price will stay the same forever? No. I believe Disney has a crazy upside potential right now. Crazy upside potential. And with the price being near its all-time lows, if I were a betting man, I might go ahead and buy in at a time when others are being fearful, because I could possibly stand to gain over 100% growth if this company's stock returns to its former glory. Their margins are good. Disney Plus is still carrying a lot of the weight and highly successful. Do they have debt? Yes. But their free cash flow is in the green and more than enough to deal with that debt. So as an investor, you're not worried about it. And for a value investor, this is quite possibly a once-in-a-lifetime investing opportunity into a company this massive and a brand this successful. Listen, those are my thoughts. Be sure to do your own research and develop a formula that you believe works for you. And be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below and let me know how you all are feeling about Disney today. Remember to invest diligently, but more importantly, invest responsibly. Later.
You should put your seat back and roll. Repeat that. Don't ask me what I'm holding. We rolling. Rolling. We rolling. Rolling. We rolling. You should put your seat back and roll. Repeat that. Don't ask me what I'm holding.